Welcome you to the 12th anniversary of our Massachusetts statewide White Ribbon Day campaign. Before I talk about the reason that we're actually here today, well, let me preface that. Before I talk about White Ribbon Day, since this is the reason we're here today, I want to take a moment for all of us to think about the recent attacks on young women, which have included a kidnapping and most recently yesterday, the abduction and murder of Jassy Correa, 23 years old. Very sobering. And these are incidents that we know about. Given that sexual and domestic violence are so unreported and underreported, especially in the most vulnerable communities, we can also assume that these are the only incidents. And while today is meant to be a celebratory opportunity, we also can't recognize our accomplishments as long as these and other incidents of horrific gender-based violence happening right here in Massachusetts, as well as across the country, are occurring without taking a pause. Because why are we really here? We're here because of survivors. And our work to end this violence begins and ends with survivors. That is why we're here, and these attacks and murders must be on our minds when we think about how much more work needs to be done. While events like this give us hope, I think we need to take a moment, let's do that, to center the lived experiences of survivors as the path to our work towards prevention. Thank you. We also recognize that there are significant milestones to mention as we acknowledge both the reason that we are here and the fact that we have sustained this campaign for 12 years. It told us that when we began in 2002, which feels like a lifetime ago, the topics of healthy masculinities, reimagining manhood, and the notion of changing social norms was not part of the public discourse. It was actually controversial, which is hard to imagine. Think about how far we have come in raising the bar for this work, which is now a national topic. Example headlines both help us and don't help us with this, but clearly we have so much more work to do. And although White Ribbon Day is an international campaign, Massachusetts is the only state to implement it statewide. And our success is due to several factors. The fabulous partnerships we have developed and sustained, some from the very beginning, who are here today, others we have met along the way. All of you are so very important in spreading the message about the work of engaging men and boys in this conversation. The flexible structure of this campaign has also contributed to its success. When we began, we focused on individual men as ambassadors of the White Ribbon Day campaign, and hundreds of men showed up. It was clear that there was great interest and a need, and we responded. Then we engaged organizations as affiliates, and hundreds of those organizations also showed up and have continued to hold events in their communities around the state all year long. In schools, in faith communities, in workplaces, it's been amazing. We've always enjoyed tremendous support and connection with our elected officials and those in state government. And it makes a huge difference when those who are public figures and influencers take a stand and live their values. Thank you all. Many of you and hundreds of others have attended our annual gatherings over the past several years. Last time we filled Faneuil Hall, if you'll remember. And as we came to understand that this work is about the need for culture change, for reimagining manhood on a deeper level, we also added an annual symposium, and hundreds have attended those events that occur in December. We began White Ribbon Day long before the hashtag #MeToo, but the confluence of the messaging in these two public discussions have really begun to shape our conversations in a more substantive way. We understand that White Ribbon Day is much more than about individual men and organizations becoming engaged. This work has become increasingly about a greatly needed social change where Me Too and Reimagine Manhood are so much more than hashtags. Over the past few years, we have also focused on different sectors of our communities as a way to delve more deeply into the messaging of White Ribbon Day. We worked with schools and campuses across the state in the past few years, and thanks to the Lieutenant Governor's brilliant idea, hundreds of schools have hung flags with white ribbons on them as part of their educational work, and that continues. This year, we want to highlight the private sector and our partnerships with some outstanding individuals and organizations and companies whose work raises the bar for all of us. We also want to showcase the important and unique partnerships that our members have with the business community as an example of the power of this campaign. I want to recognize a few people who are here today. I hope I don't miss anyone, so help me out. We have representatives from several state agencies that partner with us, including the Department of Youth Services, Liam Lowney from MOVA, also Public Safety, District Attorney Rachel Rollins, thank you for being here. Has been with us on this journey for the past many, many years. Kelly Dwyer, the Executive Director of the Governor's Council to Address Sexual Harassment. And I also want to call attention to the several rows of high school students who are here from my hometown, who had nothing to do with this, Hingham High School, and Fred Jewett, who's been part of the White Ribbon Day campaign. Today, and it's very exciting, and you've also been with us on this journey. I also want to give a huge shout out, and I don't know if there are folks here from the All-State Foundation. Do we have any folks? Yes! Jane Doe has had a huge partnership with the All-State Foundation for 10 years to assist victims of domestic violence and sexual assault through financial empowerment. And over the last decade, the All-State Foundation, Purple Purse, has invested more than $500,000 in Jane Doe. And one of the things that we have done with those funds is to offer mini grants to survivors to advance their financial independence. We have offered 75 mini grants totaling nearly $60,000 over the past 10 years, which has enabled survivors to do many amazing things in the areas of education, entrepreneurship, and we're very grateful for that. Here with us today, I want to recognize the local All-State agency. John Brady. Are you here, John? Okay, sorry. Andrew Grandi and Denise Simmons. Thank you for your activity. Now some introductions to our speakers. There are many positive things to say about this administration's partnership and commitment to Jane Doe and to survivors of sexual and domestic violence. And my heart swells just to even say that, because I know that's not the same with our colleagues across the country. So we have something unique here. I would be remiss if I didn't mention, especially since we just had a legislative briefing here this week, their budget request for fiscal year 20, which not only includes the $3 million increase for services that we received this year, but also includes a request for $1 million in prevention programming. We're also very excited about the upcoming prevention campaign that will be released this spring, and are working very closely with the administration and others on that. So watch for that. Lieutenant Governor, your leadership is both moving and moves us forward, and I'm very happy to introduce you today. Please join me. Lieutenant Governor.
Very well done. Thank you, Deborah, and all of you, Jane Doe, for your leadership and for you to be able to have the 12th event for White Ribbon Day is really telling of this community and the larger community of our Commonwealth, but also of your organization, to really focus your attention and be intentional about on making sure that we're setting the right examples among men and young men here in our Commonwealth. I do want to acknowledge Commissioner McHugh from DTA. I'm not sure if you will recognize Kelly Dwyer and members of the Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence Council. Many of you are here, and it's such an honor for me to be able to chair this council with all of you as we make a difference in the communities and in people's lives across our Commonwealth. I just want to also give a huge and profound thank you to the school districts, and especially the students who are here on this Friday afternoon. You are setting the right examples for your peers, and not only in your community, but for students of your age across this Commonwealth. I can't thank you enough as the mother of a 15-year-old boy who just started high school, how important it is for you to understand the values and the behavior, and to be able to speak up and stand up to circumstances that are not acceptable, and just talk about this and be an example for so many others. I cannot understate how powerful your example is, and I encourage you, as does everyone here, to go back into your community and serve as that example and really embrace the responsibility that you as young adults have in this Commonwealth. Thank you so much. Want to acknowledge the obvious tragic passing of Jassy over the past couple of days. This has gripped us all, and it does underscore the importance of what we're doing today and every day to set that right example. This is a young woman, mother of a 2-year-old, who was doing something that many young women do, attending a social event, thinking she would be going home and being a mother and returning to her normal life that way, and her whole life and her family's life has been torn apart. So I just encourage all of us to take the call to action seriously and know that there's always more that we can do, whether it's more funding in our budget or having the agencies incorporate policies that are really important, or at the municipal level for police officers and emergency responders to detect when there is a home that's unsettled. Whatever it is that we can do individually, we need to do it, because every individual and woman needs to feel safe and supported here in this Commonwealth. And I just join Jane Doe and Deborah in my sympathy and my sadness for this tragic passing in our Commonwealth. Now, to the attention of White Ribbon Day, on behalf of Governor Baker and our entire administration, thank you. And I love the intentionalism around engaging our private sector, engaging the employers of our Commonwealth in a very strategic way, so that men in these organizations and individuals can stand up and talk about this and set that right example. And I'm going to give you one story that was told to me a few years ago when I was visiting one of our provider organizations on Cape Cod called Independence House. And I will never forget this gathering, because this woman, a survivor, shared her story. Now, this woman, mother, lived at home with her abuser, her husband, and had a job. And her job was at Stop and Shop, which she was on the front line as a cashier. And it was difficult sometimes for her because of her home circumstance that not anyone knew about but her and her abuser, to sometimes get to work on time. But her job was so important. And her employers noticed that her attendance was becoming erratic, but they knew that she was a really good worker. And they asked her if there was something that they could do to support her. She was able to tell them what was happening to her at home. And then they were able together to develop a plan where she could save her earnings, because her abuser intercepted her paychecks, to make it economically insecure for her to be able to flee out of her home with her children safely. And they were able to help her save money outside of that paycheck. And more importantly, allow her to come to work in a safe manner, even when the abuser would make phone calls, try to meet with her, or try to engage her in the store around a conversation that was not helpful or productive to her job. And ultimately, the story ends well because she was able to save money and execute on her exit plan. And not only for her own safety, but more importantly for her children. And that's because this was a willing employer who supported the employee, understood how disruptive an abuser can be to an individual's life. And this woman now is able to have a productive life as a mother, as a citizen, and be able to live safely here in our Commonwealth. There are many, many women and individuals who fall in those circumstances. And if we can get more employers across our Commonwealth engaged like the ones you'll hear from today, then we will be able to create more opportunities for individuals to find a safer place in which to live, to raise their family, and be a part of our communities here in the Commonwealth. And to me, I think that is a huge opportunity in White Ribbon Day, but White Ribbon Day is not just one day, it's every day. So I just want to thank all of you for highlighting, spotlighting this issue today, but take it with you as you leave here to your communities, to your workplaces, to your social circles, use your social media, and really embrace what this means in a person's life. I would also just like to thank members of the council. We've been able to accomplish some good work on behalf of the Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence Council. I want to applaud my friends in local law enforcement and emergency response. We have what's called a domestic violence toolkit that is now embedded in Barnstable, Hampden, Berkshire, Norfolk, Worcester, and Bristol counties, meaning that police officers are equipped with the assessment tools when they're called to a home because of a domestic situation. They're able to have a conversation with the victim and talk to that individual about what's happening in his life, document this in an assessment tool, and more importantly, be able to support that victim with the services that he or she needs to become a survivor, and then become equipped with the information to go to court and hold the perpetrator accountable. This is happening in our communities at the grassroots level all across our Commonwealth. I also want to acknowledge on behalf of the students of the Commonwealth and those who are here that technology can be a blessing and it can be a curse. And when you think of the kinds of information that people and young people share, there's a problem with our statute regarding sexually explicit images. And while it might seem like an innocent thing to do to share something like that, or it might be intentional to hurt someone's reputation, it's wrong. And under the laws of Massachusetts, if you do that, it would be considered child pornography. We have a bill that we'd like to have passed to change the law in Massachusetts to allow district attorneys to have a diversion program. If young people are doing that, that they can be diverted into an education program as opposed to being arrested and creating a record when that's appropriate. And also, if it is being used as an intentional act to harm someone's reputation, that those individuals are held accountable. And finally, I'd just like to use this opportunity, like Deborah Robbins, for a call to action. There's always more that we need to do, and certainly the funding that comes through our state budget, we make the first pass at that as the governor's office presents the first budget, and the legislature then continues that conversation until the budget is finalized. And over the last 4 years, our collective efforts have brought an 18% increase in funding to the agencies that work on the issues relative to domestic violence and sexual assault. So $1 million for prevention in high-risk communities. Clearly, we'd like to see that come through. And then we've also proposed a 25% increase in the Safe and Successful Youth Initiative to total $10 million and $10 million to expand this program to focus on female youth. So I ask all of you, as you're interacting with your legislators to kindly ask them to support these measures. And then, of course, in just a short period of time, in just a couple of months, we'll be launching a public awareness campaign focused on youth, talking about healthy relationships and healthy choices. The last state-funded and sponsored campaign was done 20 years ago, so obviously the time is overdue. That campaign will launch this spring, but we don't want it to be a one-time campaign. It's going to be a tool that everyone can use. Our youth, our employers, and community leaders across our Commonwealth to take this campaign and really embrace it in whatever place you feel it's appropriate. So I am now going to present a proclamation that is somewhere here, although I cannot locate it. So there is, this is White Ribbon Day, and we proclaim that today, being White Ribbon Day, is something very important to Governor Baker and to me and our entire administration. And when the proclamation arrives, I'm going to deliver it to you, Deborah Robin, on behalf of all of us. We appreciate everything that Jacob does. Thank you.
A couple other folks I want to recognize. Commissioner of Probation Ed Dolan, here somewhere. Thank you for being with us today. I also want to thank, we have some Jane Doe board members who are with us, and I'm really grateful for your ongoing support. Now I'm very excited for our next speaker and to announce this. Many years ago, well, not many years, a few years ago, we were approached by a colleague about talking to one of our major financial institutions about some of the work that they were doing around training in the workplace. And when I met with Alicia Verity from the Bank of America and others, I was blown away by the breadth and the depth of the work that they do enterprise-wide to train their staff, to make resources available. And we're talking not here just in Boston, but across, but also for the dedicated staff. Jill Calabrese-Bain, Adrian, I know I saw you somewhere here, and others under the leadership of Michal Chamberlain. It's opened up an exciting partnership on so many levels, and we were really so thrilled to see the way in which they approached. As you might think, Jane Doe has a few opinions about things, and so Deanna and I, attended some events, participated in training, and their intersectional lens and the way in which they did not contribute to victim blaming, that they really upheld believing survivors, and the fact that they institutionalized policies and protocols within their institution, which is not to say things don't happen, but they are prepared for when it does. And that began a beautiful partnership, which has continued to this day. In terms of their work around White Ribbon Day, they took a call to action. They've been partners with us in our large events and within their own institutions. We've sponsored conversations there. And they're champions of this work, and their leadership, as well as the fact that they consistently show up and speak up, makes them such amazing partners. So I'm really delighted to introduce Michal Chamberlain, Massachusetts President of the Bank of America.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Deborah, for the kind introduction. And I can't tell you how proud we are as an organization to be able to partner Jane Doe, you, Tony, and the team, and work that you do in the community, and work with companies like us to tell the story and to raise awareness. And everything that happens within our company, we need experts like you that come in and can talk to our people. And really, again, raising awareness is for those in the room. The young students that are here with us today, that's what today is all about. As Lieutenant Governor stated, White Ribbon Day is today, but this should happen every day of the year. So partnership we've had with you has been fantastic. We've provided funding to your organization, but the expertise and what you bring to our employees is much more important to that. So thank you very much to you, Tony, and the team. And Lieutenant Governor, the leadership you provide to bring quality to all in this state, the new legislation that you're proposing, it's going to go a long way to, again, raising awareness and doing the things that we need to do to help those that have been victims of domestic violence. I'll tell you just a quick story about the bank and when this really came into play for us. I'd like to say it was a long time ago. Certainly every aspect of our bank has been there, but really this was formalized in 2013 when we did formalize a domestic violence task force. And it starts at the top, and just like any organization, whether it's the coach or the owner, the lieutenant governor and the governor, our CEO, Brian Moynihan, truly believed that this was something we need to institute in our company. And we need to institute not only to help victims, but again, to raise awareness, to allow our employees to feel safe to come to work every day. And if they had a problem at home or in their community, they certainly could bring that to experts within our organization. So the credit goes to our CEO, the enterprise-wide chairwoman is here today, as Deborah did say, Jill Calabrese Bank. Can you just raise your hand, Jill? Right there. Also a major executive for us in our wealth management channel. So again, the leaders of our organization are taking charge of this, and that's sending a message right down through the organization. So we're extremely proud of what we've been able to do within Bank of America. And just as a side personal note, I'm one of 4 boys. History repeats itself. My wife and I have 4 teenage boys, and I was really lucky growing up because my parents instilled in us the reasons behind why we all are equals. And I think as you look around today, not every household has the ability to get those influences from their parents, the loving influences. And that's why it's incumbent upon all of us, young people, old people, to keep a lookout and to make sure, because they don't have the upbringing that we were lucky to have. And certainly when we sit down at dinner table every night, we talk about these issues and how important it is to treat women and all with respect. And that's extremely important to us, and I hope that's something that you guys bring home with you today. So with that, I just want to say we're thrilled to be able to shine light on this important topic with Jane Doe. Keep up the great work. We'll be behind you, and this recognition means a lot to us, but we all have a long way to go in this journey. So thank you very much, Deborah.
Tell this microphone's going to go up and down. Go back up in a second. Thank you so much, Paul. It's really our pleasure. And now I'm very pleased to make another introduction of someone who is a very fond colleague and partner with Jane Doe. He's been an ally of ours for many, many years, and a couple of years ago came onto our board of directors, which is also wonderful, who has worked in this field, and who pushes us to think about the ways in which gender-based violence intersects with other forms of oppression. That's a really important topic that we value. And I'm so pleased to introduce Jerry Chin from the Office of Diversity and Inclusion at Partners Healthcare. Please join me in welcoming.
You're right, this is going up again. So happy to be here. Thank you for asking me to speak. The importance about JDI's White Women Day campaign and the idea of promoting equity regardless of our gender identity is something that Partners Healthcare is really committed to. The issue of how we treat others is of vital importance to providing the best healthcare to our patients. We have made a commitment to diversity and inclusion when we train employees on how to promote dignity and respect in their interactions with our colleagues and patients. However, we are not just promoting equality within our individual interactions with others, we also want to address the systems that are causing health inequities, which we refer to as the social determinants of health. So what does that mean? If a child comes into an emergency room and they're having an asthma attack, yes, we definitely want to treat the symptoms, but we also want to look at what might be causing it at the house, right? Does that make sense? In other words, we want to treat the symptoms, but find out what the cause is. However, the same hospital had seen 100 young people come in with asthma attacks. They were all suffering from the same symptoms. It was within a month, and they were all coming back in. We want to look at that too, right? And so what we want to do is look at, and they're all from the same neighborhood, we really want to look at what was happening in that community. And so what we're talking about there is the social determinants of health, right? If we're trying to figure out what's going on in the community, how do we address that issue? And so similarly, we know that domestic violence is the leading cause of injury in women in this country. And one of the major reasons why women seek emergency room care. Therefore, our clinicians screen for domestic violence in the emergency rooms. Jim was just talking about this, right? Are you safe at home? Is a really critical question that we're asking folks when they go into emergency rooms. However, we also offer services within our network for people affected by sexual or domestic violence. Haven at MGH in Boston and in Chelsea, Passageway at the Brigham, the DVSA at Newton Wellesley Hospital. These are services complemented by inspiring male-led efforts such as MGH's Men Against Abuse and community violence programs through the Brigham. In other words, Partners is committed to creating the social and physical environments, the social determinants that promote good health in the ring. So I'm sure you're wondering why I'm talking about dignity and respect, why I'm talking about the social determinants of health when we're talking about white women. Well, for many men, I think we see White Women Day as an opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to treating specific women and girls in our lives with dignity and respect. We understand the importance of ensuring that our partners, daughters, sisters, nieces, colleagues, friends, and all women deserve respect and the right to live their lives with dignity, free from gender-based violence. Simultaneously, we need to extend these values to people regardless of their gender identity or sexual orientation. Today, I would like to invite us to expand our White Women Day commitment, to go beyond our individual relationships, and be more responsible in addressing the systems and the institutions that are creating inequality for all women and girls. The social determinants that are keeping them from living lives, healthy lives with truly dignity and respect. While it is important for me to tell my two daughters that they can aspire to any profession that they want, seeing is believing. The recent appointment of Dr. Ann Kaplansky as the CEO of Partners provides my daughters with an example, indeed proof, that they could be one day the CEO of the company their father works for. In other words, are we working with organizations to ensure that there's gender representation and pay equity throughout all levels of our companies? We know that women make up 52% of the managerial workforce, but only 24 women are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. What else can we do to ensure opportunities are available, fair and equitable, both during the hiring process and throughout someone's career, regardless of gender? There are a few other stats that make abundantly clear that we need to specifically address sexual assault and domestic violence directly within our workplaces. If we don't, these become social determinants themselves and impact on the productivity, performance, and opportunity of millions of people in the companies that they work in. 78% of human resource professionals say that domestic violence is a serious issue in their company. 74% of women, like the Lieutenant Governor was talking about, experience domestic violence in their workplace. We also know that in the United States, domestic violence costs companies $8.3 billion a year in lost productivity and health costs. Yet a recent study found that only 35% of companies, like Bank of America, have a domestic violence or sexual assault policy, or provide training to their employees. If we are committed to ensuring the dignity and respect of women and all people, our policies and practices and training must equip managers and human resource staff with the skills to support colleagues that are experiencing gender-based violence, just like Stop and Shop. While there are currently state laws that produce workplace protections for survivors of violence, we still need to educate company leaders and human resource professionals to ensure that survivors of gender-based violence are not facing the additional worry of losing their jobs or taking time off to heal physically, emotionally, or spiritually. At a minimum, we expect companies, no matter their size or industry, to to be responsible, to refer folks to a EAP, employee assistance program, or refer somebody to a local domestic violence or sexual assault service provider. What excites me most about this year's White Women Day campaign is the focus on companies to boldly look at how we engage our employees, customers, consumers, and other stakeholders, to shift the culture that causes violence in the first place. I invite other men to join me in taking the pledge to bring this message of reimagining manhood into the workplaces of the world. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Jared. That was great. Who says we can't do this for 12, 13, 20 years? This is a lifetime challenge, so it's not going to end anytime soon. The work to address culture change and healthy masculinities happens in many ways and in many communities. We thought that you might want to learn a little bit more about something that we're really watching because of its creative and innovative approach and excited to partner with it. So we've invited one of our member programs and Miguel Andre Quinones from our member program, the Center for Hope and Healing, to come and talk with you about a unique partnership that they have with our program that's called the Buzz for Safety campaign. Please welcome, join me in welcoming.
Good afternoon. So as you already know, my name is Miguel Andres Quinones. I am working closely with a gentleman called Billy Cabrera, who runs his own barbershop in the community of Gold. And I want you to take a second to imagine a young man waking up early in the morning, looks at himself in the mirror, and he says, it's time for me to get a buzz, right? It's time for me to get that haircut. It's been about a week or so. Gentleman goes to the barbershop, he sits down, he sees his barber's having a conversation, and in between that conversation, the person says the B word. You all know what I'm talking about. That B word, right? And the barber says, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't do that here. And this is the reason why. This will be your experience at Billy's barbershop. Billy has been really pushing the agenda of educating young men in the community of Lowell around the issue of gender-based violence. So the B word is not allowed at his shop. Together, we're looking forward to working with other community agencies and other barbers to basically pass on this idea of training them to train barbers to have positive conversations in this manner, where hopefully using the B word is banned from all barbershops in the community of Lowell. We also plan to do a festival where we'll have a cut-a-thon and then have an open mic where we will again have different folks have poetry or have songs based on gender-based violence. So this is the agenda that we're pushing together. Billy Cabrera runs the RC, which is the Resource Reclamation Center, on the second floor of his building. And within that, he runs a program called the Step Up Dad program, where he works with former addicts and a lot of folks who have come out of incarceration, or just men who want to be better men, to talk about how they can be better at parenting, be a better husband, and be a better advocate to a lot of women who face gender-based violence. So, I want to explain to you all how important this is, in particular for myself. Now, you all heard a lot of statistics around the impact of gender-based violence, and I can tell you that those numbers are definitely high. And if you ask me how I know, I will tell you that I know that my mom and my wife have never reported, right? These are two people, and as we all know, 1 in every 4 women will be impacted by gender-based violence based on the numbers that we have that have been reported on. So just imagine for a second what that might actually look like. My goal with Billy is to really continue to work with other organizations in the community to continue to pass on the message as to why this is important work. And men, we have a long way to go. A barbershop is one place where a lot of men eventually go to maybe twice a month, right? So imagine a place where other places that men go to mostly, right, continue to have an atmosphere where things like the B word will not be allowed, and a conversation about why that's connected to gender-based violence will happen. Imagine that young boy who is also sitting and waiting and hears this conversation, then goes to school the next day and hears somebody say the B word. How would that young man react? I don't know, but my hope is that as we continue to do this work, we continue to pass on the message, and we continue to not allow things like this to happen as we move forward. My name is Miguel Andres Quiñones, and I'm the Project Director of the Engagement and Voice Program at the Center for Hope and Healing. Thank you all for your time.
That was fabulous. Thank you, Miguel. Very exciting. And now I am so proud to introduce, definitely last but definitely not least, my colleague Deanna Mancera, who is the Director of Membership and Programs at Jane Doe. And before you come up, I also just want to thank all of the Jane Doe staff who are here today. Can you raise your hands? We say that we're a small but mighty team, and that is very, very true. And it's a pleasure to come to work with you every single day. Deanna?
Moving the mic. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you Lieutenant Governor Polito, Michal Chamberlain. Thank you Jared. Thank you Miguel for being here. And also I want to thank our collaborators and partners at Department of Public Health. I believe there's some of them are here. Thank you so much for your partnership with us in our White Ribbon Day campaign. And I also, this is sort of an opportunity for me to say that the mere fact that we are just having these large corporations and some of the biggest employers in Massachusetts as Bank of America and local businesses like Barbershop, just having these conversations about sexual assault and domestic violence, I have to say that it's definitely an encouraging sign for me. As a person who identifies as a survivor of sexual assault and domestic violence, as a person who has been doing this work for over 12 years, as a person that speaks about this on a day-to-day basis, and I've been working towards creating a safe space for all, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, job title, or a position of power at your jobs or at work. It's definitely encouraging for me to be here and hearing you all speaking about this. Today's speakers and the remarks were an opportunity for all of us to see that sexual assault and domestic violence could happen to anyone. It would happen to anyone and at any place. So please note that while today we're focusing on the role of businesses, the impact of the trauma of sexual assault and domestic violence extends beyond the workplace. So it's going to take all of us to end this. So if you're a small business owner or a president of a corporation, I'm going to share a couple of ways in which you can support employees. Number one, as we say in our field of sexual assault and domestic violence, believe survivors. Take all complaints seriously and immediately support victims. Number two, focusing solely on the health and safety of your employees is not enough. We need you to focus on preventing violence before it occurs. So partner with your local rape crisis centers and domestic violence programs to develop and deliver comprehensive training for all your employees. And one session is not enough. Multiple sessions reinforce existing positive behaviors and decrease social norms that facilitate sexual assault and domestic violence. Number three, make yourself, employees, and HR familiar with local resources and encourage all your employees to seek support when needed. Please visit our website, janedoe.org. We have a list of all the programs across the state. But most importantly, what I want you all to take from today is that local businesses and leaders, in order for them to create a culture free and safe from violence, we need to take action. So again, if you're committed to end sexual assault and domestic violence, as I am, please take some of our wire ribbon date pins, put it in your lapel, and if someone asks you about what this is, then you know what to say. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Adriana. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We hope you'll all spread the message of what you did this afternoon in the course of your evening and the weekend. Let's talk about it. I see a proclamation. Thank you. Have that be the end of our program today.
This is our official proclamation. This is proclaiming on this day, March 1st, 2019, to be White Ribbon Day, signed by our Governor, Charles Baker, and proudly by your friend, Lieutenant Governor